Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday afternoon Meet the Atheists segment. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the man, the legend, Teo el Ateo. How are you doing, Teo?
Hi, Dean. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for thinking about me and for having me in here. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about religion on this show for some reason,
Yeah, I wonder
and
why.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions and just get your life experience regarding religion. It's very important for people who have left religion to feel a sense of community and to be able to relate to other people that also went through this journey. So, tell us a little bit about your religious background. Did you grow up in a religion? Where what was it like?
It's kind of interesting because I have always been surrounded by religion, not only because of my parents, because my parents they are not extremists or fanatics, nothing like that. Mostly because my father is an evangelical and my mother is a Catholic person. So they couldn't fight over which one was the real religion. They couldn't drive me to their different churches. My father was always too busy to go to church anyways. I did go with the Catholic Church with my mother a lot of times, but most of the religious pressure that you see down here, South America, it's going to be from society itself. I mean, when I was a child, I lived in different towns because of my father's job, he had to move a lot, and we would live in these very small houses, small towns. Like a couple of houses. Sometimes there was a square, sometimes there wasn't, but you could always find a church. It didn't matter how small the place was. There was either the Catholic church or an evangelical church. So you always find this religious thing around. You always find people either shouting on the street, "The end is near, repent, you sinners." Uh, Nowadays, you see a lot of Jehovah Witnesses around here.
Yeah.
We are very used to them. And if you turn on the TV in the morning, there are Catholic channels in every single country down here. So you are going to have mass on your channel in the morning. So you cannot watch cartoons because you're going to be watching the mass. So that's part of how growing up in South America is like. And
Yeah.
something that you mentioned in the beginning that I think is very important is this thing about having a community. Because as I always live surrounded by religion, surrounded by people who took religion for granted, when I realized that all of this was a lot of BS, and I will talk about my process later, I felt completely alone. And I was so excited about telling people, hey, I realized this is not true. This is all false. And I have all this evidence, or you can see it if you compare this with that. And people could get upset. They could feel insulted and they could get mad at you if you talk about that. I
Yeah.
actually spent half a decade or maybe more being the only atheist I knew about. I just a couple of years ago I met the ACA and I learned, wow, I am not the only human in this planet who has realized that maybe religion is just full of BS and that there are no gods around us.
Mm,
And
mm.
it's weird. It's weird being lonely and not having anyone to talk about to talk with
But
about this.
yeah, it's so true that you mentioned that because that's one thing that religion really does well is it builds communities. It builds communities very, very easily. Where there's a priest, give it 5, 6 months, and there's a whole community around the priest. And everybody's working together, and because they've got something that unifies them at the end of the day. And I think that's where the atheist community can also take a couple of lessons. It's just takes a little bit of effort from one person, and you can build a community of like-minded people. And the more people you have, the easier it is to mobilize people, and to get things done. Because I don't know if it's the same where you live, but over here, we're supposed to be a secular country, but every single politician, if they don't say they've got God and Jesus behind them, they will never get elected.
It's very similar. Actually, the last elections, it was quite weird that the winner was not an extremely religious person, but I
Uh-huh.
think it was only because he was extremely like. Can I mention that German leader in here or not?
Yeah, we all know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, the most famous Christian in history, the leader of Germany during the Second World War. That guy. Well, this guy was similar to that. So I think that the only reason why he wasn't elected is because a lot of, I wouldn't say secular, but the other side decided, okay, I don't like the other candidate, but I don't want Hitler ruling the country. And that's it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's the lesser of the two evils, I guess.
Exactly. But what you mentioned, it's totally right. Most of them, they are going to use religion to
Yeah,
boost their power, or they are going to be supported by specific
yeah,
pastors because oh, tax exemptions and stuff like that.
yeah. But that's because religion hijacks morality. It hijacks morality and it tells people that morality comes from religion when in fact morality is created by societies.
Oh
It's
yeah,
the
that's
very
why we oppose the Bible. Nowadays, it's illegal to do things that the Bible supports, such as slavery, because we know that taking liberties away from people it's evil. But
yeah,
despite that, you still have Americans trying to fight for, a society based on the Bible where you cannot decide on your own body, and I don't know, maybe they want to stone their kids if they misbehave. Who knows?
yeah, yeah. A theocracy. Yeah, they want to be ruled by the Bible.
It's so sad. They haven't read their Bible. Most of them haven't read their own Bible.
That's true. So, how did you transition away from religion? Was it a gradual process, or was it just like one day you woke up and said, "Oh, this is all bullshit"? Because so many people have got very different stories about it. For some people, it's like that death by a thousand cuts. It's like every day some little thing fell away, and for other people, it was just like the clouds opened and they said, "Oh no, it's all nonsense." What was it like for you?
Ew, in my case, it's a long and interesting story. Well, I don't know if interesting, but it is long. But
Me
I
too.
mentioned, I mentioned when I was a child, we moved to different places. So
Uh-huh.
I got this unique viewpoint where I could see different churches. I could go with those churches because, you have to socialize with people and start to meet others, and those are perfect places. And there were some weird things going on, like they tend to disagree in some stuff, but I was a child, I didn't pay much attention to those. But in one of those times, I met a Jehovah Witness. She was cute, and I was a boy, young one, so calm down, calm down, boy. But still, I decided to learn from her some stuff, and that's how I got introduced to the Jehovah Witnesses. Now we go forward in time when we finally arrived to a city where we established. My family has been living in this place for a long time now, and in there I started meeting new people. I started going to the Catholic Church once in a while, marriages, funerals, and once in a while to remember people who has left us. Here we make masses for them, so there are some stuff there. So I went to several of those. I could watch them on TV, as I said. And then I started going with the evangelical people because my best friend back at the time was evangelical. Those guys who do nothing on Saturday. It was interesting. His father was a pastor, so I got an easy entrance there, and I started studying with them. And one day the Jehovah Witnesses arrived. Obviously, I knew about the Jehovah Witnesses because of this other girl that I told you about. And obviously, I got interested because I knew about them. I had studied with this other girl. These other women were cute as well, so whatever. And we started with studying the Bible. Well, not even the Bible. They have a short book or a small book that is the book of Bible stories that is made for children. So they tell you stories from the Bible, but in a childish way. And I really like that, and I started studying with them a lot. Sorry. I started getting more of the books that they had. And one second. My throat is killing me. So I started studying with them. I kept going with the evangelical people. I kept listening to mass in the morning once in a while. There were some televangelists that I would watch as well because they had cartoons. So I just wanted to see the cartoon, but I had to listen to the whole sermon before getting to a cartoon. Yeah, it's weird. And when the more that I was growing up, I was a teen at the time, and I realized that many things were taken out of context. That things that one person would say would contradict what other person would say, and they are reading the same Bible verses. They are taking the same parts and giving them different interactions. I was more convinced that the Jehovah Witnesses were in the right track because they had given me a book called "How Did Life Come Here by Evolution or Creation," in which they take a lot of scientific stuff, but they deform it, giving it, a kind of a young Earth creationist viewpoint. Sadly, I believed them, and I will talk about those harms of religion later. But I was convinced that they had better reasons until I realized that if I was sick and I was with the Jehovah Witnesses and I needed a blood transfusion, I was supposed to die instead of getting the help that I needed. And I was like, why?
They
If God,
hardcore. The Jehovah's Witnesses don't play. They don't play.
yeah, no, you have to die. It's that because God is going to help you. Sometimes they go with a very dishonest thing where they say, "Oh no, but there are special treatments when you don't need to actually use blood." Yeah, but those treatments are so expensive that no one is going to get them unless
Yeah.
you live in the USA and you have a lot of money.
Mm,
So for
mm,
me, realizing that the Jehovah Witnesses on one side said God gave us science and the knowledge, and thanks to that we can advance as people, as society, and on the other side saying, but if you are sick, you have to die because you cannot trust science because it goes against what God says in the
mm.
Bible, which by the way says something totally unrelated, and yeah, it's about not eating the blood of animals, and that's it, and it's for other reasons as well. Well, all of that made me doubt. That was the only reason why I never got baptized with the Catholic Church. I have never liked the army. One of the reasons why I wanted to be part of the Jehovah Witnesses is because I could have an excuse and say I cannot go into the army because I'm a Jehovah Witness and we are protected by international laws. But then I went to study to university, so I still had an excuse, and I didn't have to become a Jehovah Witness for that. And that's how my journey started when I started comparing all the contradictions that were being said in there. It's basically when you realize, okay, I have studied with all these religions, all of them contradict each other, all of them cannot be right, but what if all of them are wrong? And then it hit me. The same happened with me with Santa Claus. Is this happening with everybody? Is everybody else realizing, hey, Santa Claus was fake, so is God? Apparently not. Apparently most people stop at Santa. And that is sad.
It's true, that. But the funny thing is that this was one of my big reasons as well. Is that moment when I realized there's so many different religions and different flavors of religion. Not all of them can be right at the same time, but all of them can be wrong at the same time. And when that hit me, it was a couple of minutes later, and I just said, "Ah, fuck, this is all bullshit."
No, for me it took a little bit longer because I don't know if I really loved God or loved the idea of God. Obviously, I know that it's just idea, but I'm not sure why I was so in love with this idea of learning about this God, studying this stuff. Maybe it was because I wanted to know more about it. I'm not sure, but I really loved the idea, so it was kind of hard living it.
Yeah, yeah.
And yes, I was one of those guys. No, 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 I'm not an atheist because I had no idea what an atheist was. Yeah, I don't deny God. I'm just an agnostic. I'm open to other ideas. Nowadays, I explain, dude, yes, you can be an atheist agnostic or a believer agnostic. And I have been insulted by
Exactly.
atheists and believers as well. And by superior agnostics who apparently doesn't understand agnosticism either. But that's for another show.
And I guess it's also the way that people respond to those labels. If you approach someone with the label agnostic, they think, oh, you just undecided, you haven't made up your mind yet. But if you approach them with a label atheist, then they immediately look for the crucifix and they they cross themselves.
Yeah, it's awful. I was once talking with a butcher who I have no idea why he asked me if I was Catholic or evangelical, And I said, no, I'm an atheist. I didn't even say atheist. I said I'm an agnostic. And I was with my mother, and he looked at my mother and said, "Oh yeah, that word is cursed by the Bible. So I'm so sorry for you." And we're like, dude, it's not even mentioned in the Bible. If you knew something about history, you would know that first Christians were atheists as well. So
Yeah. So, during this deconversion process, was it completely an inside job, or was there some external influence? Was there an organization or a person or something that played a specific role in your deconversion?
nothing at all. Actually, everybody around me was mostly forcing religion down to my throat.
Yeah.
I remember the wisest person that I know is my mother. And one day I remember asking her with tears in my eyes, like, "Mother, is there really a God?" And she was like, "Of course there is." And for some reason that didn't convince me. And the way how she answered without any other evidence that I have no proof, but I have no doubts either, kind of made me question things even more.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should feel proud or not, but when I deconverted, I had no idea that there were other people believing the same thing outside or realizing that there are no gods. And I didn't learn about, names such as Carl Sagan or Neil deGrasse Tyson or even Matt Hanti until a couple of years ago when I learned about the ACA and, oh, wow, there are people out there. Are there books? Are you kidding me? So in my case, it was
Amazing.
totally personal, and I had no, I had no one to talk, whom to tell about this stuff. So
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting, because it must be a very lonely and isolating experience to discover this all by yourself. You must feel very alone in the world when that happens.
oh, when I started my process, when I arrived to the university, and even nowadays, my three best friends or closest friends, one of them was the son of a pastor, so he was a hardcore evangelical. The other one was a hardcore Catholic who could always spend a lot of time talking about his church and all of that. And my current best friend, he's also an evangelical guy. He's not as hardcore, and we have always been able to talk about this process this process about religion, and I have been talking with him a lot about my process. And actually, I'm a VTuber thanks to him. So kudos to that guy. I love him, and I I think that he doesn't believe anymore, but he still, has to take care of his mother, who is extremely religious, is still
Yeah.
involved in the community. So if he's not a believer and he's faking it, well, don't know, but he's still part of the religion in that way.
Mm.
So yeah, I had nobody to talk to talk with about this stuff.
So, now that you realize that you're an atheist, are you involved in any kind of activism, or be it it can be online or in person? A lot of people uh, share this journey where as soon as they leave religion, they find some form of activism very appealing to them. Whether it's like I said, some people go online, other people become very ardent environmentalists, or they find some other cause to fight for. Is that the case for you as well?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I will make a joke about you being the Pope of Atheism because I do know the first real Pope of Atheism. She's Tangil from Australia. I don't know if you know Tangil. She
I
has been
don't know.
she disappeared a couple of years ago because she was sick and she started coming online as much but as she used to do. But we had that joke in the ACA that she was the Pope of Atheism because she was amazing. She was controlling everything. And thanks to her, I realized how harmful religion is. She helped me with a huge list of the harms of religion. And as soon as she did that, I decided that I had to do something about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, talking about the Pope, I consider the guy one of the most evil and disgusting creatures ever. So, hey, if you see me on the non-profits from the ACA once in a while, I do talk against this guy. I do talk about the harms of religion. I also participate with, maybe you know these guys, Skeptic Haven. I think you have
Yeah.
been doing something with them, where you and I have been working together with Global Atheists. something that I really
Yeah,
like. We talk a lot
that's
about
that's a great show. It's a great show, and it's funny that a lot of atheists adopt the label of humanism as well. They rally the cause of humanism because there's this, I think it's the solidarity that we find in a shared experience points us into this avenue of being humanists. And a lot of the humanist causes, when that's another thing that religion hijacks. It hijacks people have got this built-in sense of charity and wanting to help their fellow man and being kind and good to their neighbors. Religion also hijacks that, and say, oh no, this only because of religion that happens. So you'll find a lot of humanist elements surface as well. People tend to, go for more charity and community-driven organizations in the process.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you were going to ask if I was doing some charitable stuff like that. I am not, but only because I'm poor. I have helped in any way I can. I have been able to recover from religion, though. And what I have done though is that I have a channel in Spanish where I'm obsessed with the harms of religion. I have several sections. I read the Bible, I read the Quran, I analyze the different crimes. Yeah, we do have a section about crimes made in the name of religion. Um,
Yeah.
my favorite one is, talking about harms of religion in general. But I also have one section where I interview people, and I
Mhm.
have brought some people who, interestingly, they are Christians, but they are, for example, a queer pastor. He's an open queer LGBTQ activist who happens to be a Christian, and I have been telling this person to work with me and to promote himself as much as he can, because he does activism in a weird way that I totally disagree, because I find it cherry picking from the Bible to say that God is love and stuff like that. I totally disagree with that. But at the same time, he's trying to use this very harmful thing that is religion in a good way to help others, to receive people who have been left homeless, who have been kicked out of their homes and stuff like that. And I do consider that we should, if not Catholic Christians, if Christian institutions are against the evil of Christian institutions, I think that we can help them in any way that we can, and I will always try to promote those two organizations.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I'm never opposed to, any person who wants to help their fellow man, regardless of where it comes from. The only thing that usually concerns me is the baggage that they usually carry a big suitcase full of baggage when they come to help people. They'll first try to pray for them, and then tell it always comes with a catch. There's always a catch to the help,
Yes.
and that's not that doesn't sit right with me. But when people are genuinely just wanting to help people, I don't care from which avenue it comes from. So what are you passionate about? Like, what makes you get up in the morning now that you don't have white Jesus helping you to wake up in the morning? What fuels you and what inspires you to carry on in your day-to-day work?
Oh, well, my day to day is mostly, art and learning about new stuff, dinosaurs, Pokemon. But if we're talking about activism, it's talking about the harms of religion. I have
Yeah.
said several times that the day when I wake up and I'm able to open the news on the internet or any newspaper, and I don't find any way how religion is harming people, hurting others, I will have no show, and that will make me
Yeah.
happy. If I have nothing to make a show on, because any day I can open any piece of any newspaper, any piece of news I can find, they will talk about how, in one way or another, religious ideas are harming people. This evil guy that I have in here is saying something that is harming people, or that is telling people that they should go and hurt others. So,
Mhm.
talking about the many ways how religion is hurting people nowadays is something that forces me to do all the activism that I do.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I will be happy when I have nothing to talk about. It will mean that I'm
Exactly.
living in a
Yeah.
much better society.
Yeah. And this, now that we we've touched a little bit on the harms of religion. Has religion had a negative impact on you personally? I mean, I'm speaking for myself when I'm, talking about things like I was constantly afraid. I was always afraid that I always felt like there was someone looking over my shoulder, and I was ridden with guilt and shame. And then as soon as I realized that it's just man-made construct, it was such a relief. It was like all of that, that. Those negative things that I kept in the back of my mind just vanished, and I don't know if you want to share some of the negative impacts that religion had on your life.
Well, the negativity in my side is going to go by knowledge mostly because I was never afraid of going to hell because I was a good Christian. I was perfect in any way I could. I was doing the best I could. You evil sir, shame on you, shame on you. I was an example for society, sir. I was holier than thou. What can I do? That's the way I am. That's the way I roll. So in my case, I was never actually afraid of hell because I am lucky that I have parents who love me. I didn't have to hide anything from them. I could speak with them openly. My father is a little bit absent in my life, but only because he was working very hard in order to give us everything that we needed. But he wasn't a bad person, so I never felt the need to hide anything from them. I never, I was never involved in bad things. I guess that's why I wasn't very popular at school. But I was sure that if one day I died, I had my spot in heaven ready. So that wasn't actually anything harmful for me or a harmful idea for me because I was sure I wasn't going to hell. But when I left religion, I realized I was in this weird point when I said, okay, thanks to my personal Bible, How Did Life Come Here by Evolution or Creation by the Jehovah Witnesses, I was totally sure that I had the scientific information that proved that evolution was impossible and that the Big Bang was impossible as well. All of those were lies made by evil scientists who wanted to lie against God. But at the same time, I had realized that people lie in the name of God, that what the Bible says contradicts itself, contradicts facts that we do know. So obviously, all those tales from the Bible were not real as well. Sorry, either were not real either. And God was most likely an invention as well. So
Mm,
obviously, the religion wasn't the answer, but in my mind, the answers that science had given us were not an answer either. So for a long time, well, not that long, it was shorter than yeah, a couple of years. Let's say a couple of years. I was in this weird spot when, if you ask me, where did life come from or where did the universe come from, my only answer was, I have no idea. I don't know. I know that the answers that people most of the time give are not possible because of several reasons. I can talk about them if you want. Nobody wanted to talk about them for a reason, but I have no idea why, how things happened. I just don't know, and I haven't found anything that can explain it. This changed when I one day I went to a museum about dinosaurs. Those are not common in here, so this was, an international exhibit, and there was a group of people who studied paleontology, and it was free. So obviously I joined right away. And learning about dinosaurs, I had to learn about the ages of the Earth. In order to learn about that, we had to learn a little bit about geology. To learn about geology, we were able
Spoiler alert, it's not 6,000.
exactly. So yeah, with that, obviously we went so far as to learn about volcanoes, about the origin of the Earth. We had to learn about cosmology, how gravity works in order, to create this planetary ring of protoplanets around stars that in the end they turn into these balls of rock that become planets. And learning all of that opened my eyes. Is what it was like. Wow. So this is what religion stopped me from learning all this time.
Yeah.
And I felt that I was kind of getting old. I mean, I was a young adult. I still am. But in that place there were scientists who would speak in this beautiful language where I could understand nothing, and I could just look at them and say, wow, I really have to study everything they said to understand what they are trying to explain. But yes, this was off topic because during the talks in there, obviously they would reduce everything to common knowledge, language, sorry, common language. And like that, I learned a lot with them. And for me, the biggest harm that I got from religion was not being able to learn all that stuff from before,
Yeah,
stuff that I should have
yeah,
known from primary school.
yeah. Yeah, it stops people from asking the questions that it makes them more curious, and it's only by being curious that we learn new things and that we expand our knowledge.
And it
And
doesn't.
how about the communities that you live in? Like, does religion have a negative impact on people there? Because here in Africa, my friend, you can only Google crazy African pastor, and you'll see what they do here. They'll make people go eat the lawn outside the church like cattle, calling them sheep, and have people. I mean, our pastors here, they're in a league of their own. They raise people from the dead, in front of you.
Oh yeah, and they end up killing themselves or killing people with families so they can show everybody
Crazy.
else how they're going to raise them, and they never do. Yeah, I've seen those
Mm,
examples, and one day I want to have you in my show talking about those harms because I know that you will have many more examples that I can find on my own.
yeah,
And
definitely.
dear Dean, in here, as I said, you can find evangelical churches in every single town. So there is a huge majority of evangelical people. And this is a secular country,
Right.
but it was conquered by the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church has always been the majority because it's more popular, because it's involved with the society, because they have these huge institutions that are always doing different stuff. But nowadays, after COVID and after people stop believing the Catholic Church because of the way they have been handling, pastor raping children and the Pope defending those same pastors, evangelical people have started growing in numbers, and they have
Mm,
always been present in every single place, but they have always been seen as smaller people smaller groups of people who are not kind of dangerous. But nowadays they are starting to gain a lot of advantages, at the point that some politicians openly change their Catholic religion to evangelical religion just to get more votes. And in here, the religion is so powerful, and the institutions that are ruled by the Catholic Church, among others, are so many that, could you believe that many activists in South America do not show their face? They prefer to show cartoons or just use their voice, and they don't show
or they
themselves
wear
because,
face coverings. Yeah, I've seen that.
yeah, because they don't want to be recognized, because they are going to be fired from their jobs, because they are going to be in danger, because their families are going to be in danger, because I don't know if you know that, but many prisoners become evangelical people because there are evangelical pastors inside prisons, inside the jails, and as when they become religious, yeah, of course they change, of course, according to them. And the most ah, the most popular reason to become religious is because if you do that, they reduce your sentence. So if you were supposed to be 20 years in jail, suddenly you are an evangelical guy, and the pastor is going to talk in a jury so they can reduce that to half of the time, or to say, no, this person has changed, they have served their time, uh, I will vote for them so they can come outside and join society again. And obviously, like that, the pastor has earned a new person who is going to be on buses saying, I used to be a criminal, but now God gave me a new way of seeing things. Give us money. Why don't you give us money? I'm being a good person. You have to give us money. And it's kind of dangerous to not give them
Yeah,
money. No,
yeah.
not really, but it's kind of dangerous to go against those people, because then you realize that pastors are gathering their own army of ex-criminals in order to do whatever they want. So that
Mm,
is only one of the many hearts of religions. If you see news recently, maybe you have seen huge groups of women, even, who are opposing the rights of women to choose over their own body. The
yeah.
These blue napkin, no, they aren't napkins, blue fabrics on their necks, that that they demand that the government stop letting women decide over their own bodies just because of their religious ideas.
Yeah, yeah. No,
And oh,
it's strange, like here in South Africa, that kind of that kind of opposition to abortion is it's not so much within. It's more like in a community, on a community level, where people don't really nationalize, but because we've legalized abortions for ages now, so
wow.
um, people don't really it's not that big of a deal here, but I cannot for the life of me understand this concept where people want to cross over that line of bodily autonomy, where they
Mhm.
decide, like, you can't decide what you do with your body, and I'm going to put a law now in place that prevents you from making decisions about your own body. I mean, if you decide one day you want to cut off one of your fingers, that's not a problem, you know. But it's weird when it comes to reproductive health, then all of a sudden people have an issue. I don't get it.
It's just religious ideas because once again they haven't read their Bible. They don't know that in Numbers God teaches you how to have an abortion.
Mm.
And the abortion is only if the husband suspects that the woman has been unfaithful. Women cannot decide over that, but the husband goes and decides over their body, and it's
Yeah.
God, the judge, who makes the oh, in Spanish is el muslo. What is the word that they use so they don't mention penises, parts of the body, vowels, uterus? What is the word? Muscle?
I'm not sure.
It's okay. It's one word that can mean any of those things. That for example, when Isaiah was making a promise to his father, he had to touch his muslo in Spanish, but that just meant that they were touching each other's penises. But whatever. I don't want to talk much about the Bible. But yeah, they haven't read their Bible. They have no idea what it says,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's mostly this idea that the Catholic Church needs more people who cannot study, more people who are living in misery, and stopping them from deciding, hey, I don't want to have a child and I want to study, is one of the best way how they can increase misery in people in here and maintain
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I watched the documentary that Christopher Hitchens made for, I can't remember the magazine. I think it was for Vanity Fair or something. I don't remember, or the BBC, that he did on Mother Teresa. And the line that always stands out for me is when he said, Mother Teresa was not a friend of the poor; she was a friend of poverty.
Hmm.
And that's exactly the thing. Is the more religion always seems to gravitate towards the oppressed and the downtrodden. It's because they are in a frame of mind where they more susceptible to look for a solution that somebody else provides to them. And it's predatory. It's actually predatory.
Extremely. Yeah, I do have a program about a program, a show, an episode about Mother Teresa based on that documentary from Hitchens.
Yeah.
Another guy saw it and he told me, Theo, you have to do this. And I was like, I don't have time. I'm going to summarize it for you. So everything I did is the summary of this guy. I love that guy. He's amazing. And yeah, it's creepy how evil Mother Teresa actually was. And
Yeah.
yeah, of course, if you are a teenager who is about to die because of an infection, you cannot get penicillin because it's too expensive. But of course, she can have the best attention in the best hospital in the USA, the most expensive, because she's
Mm.
extremely rich. And yeah, for her, her own rules don't apply. It's
Mm.
disgusting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
was also
crazy.
going to talk about some additional harms of religion where people
Yeah.
have been murdered because they profess a different religion. I last year I talked about a guy, I cannot remember his name. It happened in Colombia, and he was murdered. Colombia, no, Bolivia. Sorry, in Bolivia, and he was murdered by a group of an evangelical congregation because they said that he was a shaman working for the devil and he was going to curse them, and he was doing scientific research with plants based on the ancient knowledge of the natives living in the area. It was very sad. I don't remember his name, but I will look
Yeah.
for it later.
Yeah. But it's strange that you mentioned that, because it's strange how people always do these acts on behalf of their god. It's never the god that, they're two different kinds of gods. They're the gods in the books. They're the powerful gods that do the miracles and fucking do all these, very obvious things. And then there are the current gods, and the current gods are like a watered down version. They're not as potent as the ones in the books, and it's always the people that tell us about the gods in the books. It's
Yeah,
weird.
the god that performs miracles can only perform miracles that can be done by your own immune system, almost as if that god didn't exist. I got cured by cancer. Oh, really? So you never went to a hospital? Oh, of course I went to chemotherapy and all that, but it was God the
And
one curing me.
yeah,
Sure.
chemo, 50 doctors, two
Yeah.
years. Thank you, God.
And whenever you hear somebody saying, "Oh, but I didn't go to a doctor and they were amazed how I got recovered," dude, have you read what remission is and how disease is going to
Yeah,
that? Because you do have an immune system, you know?
yeah, it's
Yeah, it's quite
crazy.
sad. Hmm.
And what was the you touched a little bit on it earlier about the reception in your community when people learned that you are an atheist.
Oh, yeah. Down here, my mother wisely always says we should never talk about politics, soccer, or religion. Because
Yeah,
whenever we talk about that, there are fights. I don't like soccer. Even saying that is going to start a fight in here. Because how is it possible that you don't like soccer? Are you gay or something like that? Is what, dude, you are the one looking 11 dudes going behind a ball. You are the one obsessed with men, not me. But yeah, whatever. Um, those topics make people very, how to call it? Yeah, they behave in a fanatic way.
yeah,
And but I do think that we should talk about politics and religion, because if we don't talk about them, we are not
yeah,
informed about those topics. But people in here become violent when they start talking about
yeah,
their ideas, or if you start openly attacking their ideas, they will become very defensive about them.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
a little bit hard, this.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that this is my point of view on this process is, if you if ever there is any threat, or if you have any possibility of someone doing you harm, or influencing your environment because of your atheism, there, it's not a hill that you need to die on. You don't need to martyr yourself for this. And I say that to people. We have so many people here as well that they're part of our community, but they're not out and vocal about their atheism. Just because it has an impact. It has an impact on the society that impacts you, because you obviously live within the society.
Hmm.
And there will come a day, hopefully, in my lifetime, where people aren't people don't feel the need to to not be their true selves, because we as humans, we love, the thing that really inspires us is authentic interaction. Like when people have to um, you know give you a long story about, when they go to church just for the sake of making other people happy, or and I mean, I was there myself. Like, I was an atheist for a long time, and I was, you know going to meet my family, and then at the dinner table, I'm praying, with everybody. And then after a while, it's not something that I did. Like, I didn't drop like a big bomb in the middle of it. Like, I just started telling them, like, I don't really believe this stuff anymore, just here and there in conversation. And then after a while, they sort of like put one and one together. But it's a very individual journey. Like you said, for some people, it's some people are in places where it is dangerous. It's outright dangerous. They
Oh,
get
and
arrested and killed if they do anything that can be considered as atheistic. Like, we only need to look to the Middle East. And then,
yeah,
there's so many people that are still being held captive there in Africa, in my own continent. There are people in the northern states of Nigeria, all these places that are in prison just for being atheists, just for making a post on social media. It's crazy.
It's terrible. I think that a problem that we are facing nowadays is that sadly, being an atheist is something that shouldn't exist. I mean, none of us believe in the Yeti, or most of us don't believe in the Yeti, so we are all Ayetists. But we don't need to use that label because nobody takes the Yeti idea seriously nowadays, or almost nobody. It should be the same with religion, but religion is so widespread and it has so much control and it's so dangerous around the world that many people feel the need of having the this name, and sometimes it's forced upon us, sometimes we have to use it to defend some things. But I tend to I have seen lately that a lot of people believe that an atheist on the internet is immediately an atheist activist, and
Yeah,
not every single atheist has to be an activist. I mean, in the perfect world, nobody would have to be an activist.
yeah,
If somebody wants to be an activist and start their own show and start doing what we're doing here, go ahead, do it. Awesome, you will have our support. But if you feel that you sometimes see something that some activists should talk about, you don't want to do it because you don't know how to, you, the best thing that you can do is take those topics and bring them to your favorite activists so they can do something about it. uh, and whenever there is some stuff that needs to be promoted, you can help promoting it. But this idea of that use religious people, they see an activist, sorry, no, not an activist, they see an atheist and immediately is, okay, then tell me, how did the world came to be, where does the universe come from? And it's like, dude, I'm an activist, I'm not a cosmologist. So, and some, I know many activists who love to answer those questions. Well, because we learn the basic stuff, and it's always fun to talk about them.
yeah,
But an atheist doesn't have to know all of that and doesn't have to answer it. You could be an atheist just because you have never been told about God, and you are totally rational, and that doesn't make you less atheist than the most rational atheist or ever, who could be positive or negative atheist. Who knows? So
mm,
so we
no, I
should
agree.
learn to separate the terms between activist and atheist. Atheist is just somebody
Yeah,
who doesn't believe, and that's it. They don't have to
yeah,
be, these warriors on the internet trying to explain why believing is irrational or stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree 100%. Um, the thing is, sometimes I'm just frustrated because here in the third world where I live, it's very difficult to get those ideas across. Because there's such a stigma. There's such a stigma attached to non-belief that people immediately go for superstition. They think, oh, you've got there's somebody who bewitched you, or there's some magic at work that they're not aware of, and you just need to be prayed for. And sometimes sometimes they go very extreme. You'll have people, they do weird things. They'll get churches to come to your house and pray for
Oh,
you, and the next thing you wake up and there's all kinds of different blessings, and they'll paint people's doorposts and all of that. It's very weird.
I would say you and I both, we are bored of these situations and being in a third world country. So yeah, I totally understand that, and it's quite sad, really.
That's crazy. So um let's just talk in closing a little bit about how to engage with religious people, because I see you guys also do some call-in shows. I mean, we've also recently started doing one. We've just aired a couple of episodes. But how do you engage with religious people in a constructive way that that fosters understanding, and what are some tips and advice that you can give to us on that front?
I don't know if I've been successful, so my advice, I don't know how well it's going to work, but I like being open, honest. Start
Yeah,
by admitting that I don't know everything. So if there is something that I don't know, I'm going to say it. And when people try to say, "Oh, that means that's God," no, that's the God of the gaps. It just means that I don't know something, that I'm ignorant about something. And I also try to understand what people say, and I don't let them go with the with gish galloping. Like start talking and talking and talking and bring one point, another point. Is always okay. You mentioned this point. Let's stop here. Let's clarify this point, and then we will advance. Let's first talk about why you think that the Earth is flat, and then why this is going to prove that that Noah had to build a boat for animals and all of that. Let's go point by point, but at the same time try to be respectful, because we were talking about misconceptions like, oh, the atheist has to know everything. Another misconceptions are that atheists know everything. No, we don't. Another misconception is that atheists are extremely smart and religious people are very stupid, or the other way around, depending where you are. And nope, there are very smart religious people. Some of them are just misled. Some of them are not very honest, and I dislike those people, but that's a different story. And some of them are just there to learn and never had the opportunity of learning all the new stuff that we can talk about. So I always tend to go very slow, calmly, and analyzing stuff step by step, and of course realizing if I'm talking with a person who actually wants to know and have a conversation, or somebody who is not paying attention and just is waiting for their turn to speak. That's why many times I ask, okay, can you explain what I just said in your own words? If they say, I don't know, obviously they were not paying attention and they just want to gish gallop and advance to the next point. Oh, yeah, but why do we have fossil on top of mountains? Dude, I'm trying to tell you why gravity exists. After that, we can go with tectonic plates and all of that. So that's my personal approach for now.
Yeah, that's a very, it's weird, like I find the arguments presented, um, when I was religious, obviously they were very compelling to me. Like I also bought into it. But as soon as I started to look at it with a critical lens and just evaluated it, it's very strange how much logic and just thinking skeptically and critically about things influences deconversion, because it's a skill that so few people have, and it's a skill that you can learn in 1 or 2 hours. you know
I I think that the problem is that when you're religious, you are taught not to question anything, just blindly believe, and not to use logic. If you do that, you are failing God, you are not trusting the Lord, and those things are deeply rooted in in people's minds, and that's why they try not to question anything, try not to think, because if they are questioning something, they are not believing in the Lord, and that means that they are doing something bad, something evil, and that's why it's so hard to reason with some of these people. And I personally, when I stopped believing, science was not like this huge tool that opened everything for me, because I misunderstood science back then. But using logic, and not, maybe not even logic in the philosophical sense where you go with these rules and about non-contradicting things and other weird terms that those boring people like to use. I don't like philosophy much, which is funny because one of the guys who always supports me, he is deep, deep into philosophy. So whenever he starts like that, it's like, thank you. Now, coming back to the point. Okay, but coming back to the point, what I was going to say, just analyzing what was presented to me and questioning, okay, why God would do this if it's totally stupid? Why am I more moral than God in this sense? Oh, but God has, and you know what? Evangelical people always have this excuse. No, it's because you cannot understand the way how God thinks. And I could
exactly.
have been one of those, but I was also studying with the Jehovah Witnesses who say that God has a perfect way of doing things that you can understand, and He knows everything about you. He can know even every single one of the hairs in your head. So that made me realize, okay, if knows everything and He knows everything that is going to happen, why the heck what was He angry when Adam did exactly what he knew he was going to do? And He never taught them about evil and wrong. So it's stupid that He's becoming upset. And also, okay, is the snake just smarter than God? No, 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 no. The snake was evil. So God is evil because he created an evil snake. No, 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 no. What really happened is that that wasn't a snake. It was the devil using a snake as a puppet. So God is stupid and is punishing a poor snake because of something that Satan did. So when you start analyzing those small things, all the misconceptions start falling down on their own. And you
Yeah.
don't have to think much to realize those things. Just compare stuff and what people say about the same God.
Amazing. That's such good advice. It's just like they say you become religious when somebody else reads the Bible to you, and you
Mhm.
become an atheist if you read it for yourself.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, read the Bible because it's real. When people try to use the Bible to defend their God, you go and read those passages that they are not aware of, and their whole argument falls down. So I should have those arguments somewhere written, but I don't, and I'm starting to forget them. But yeah, you ask them, oh well, you ask them, why does God want order their soldiers to kill children? Oh no, God didn't do that. You are talking about Herod when he was persecuting Jesus. No, I'm talking about here in Psalms when God is literally telling Saul, I think it is,
Kill the babies, children, women, everything,
all the
even the
animals,
animals.
even the animals, exactly. And they haven't read those passages. So of course they try to make up excuses instead of saying, "Oh, I had never seen that," or "I don't know." Which, as soon as you see somebody who doesn't say "I don't know" and who tries to make excuses for something that they have never seen before, you know that you are in front of a dishonest, intellectually
Yeah,
dishonest person, and that is very sad because that's just a byproduct of being religious and doing what you are told instead of questioning things.
mm,
Don't question the Lord isn't one of the commandments.
exactly, exactly. So, Theo, I want to say thank you very much on behalf of our little group of atheists here in South Africa for being so generous with your time, for speaking to us. Where can people find you on social media if anybody wants to follow the channels that you guys have up?
Well, if you want to find me in English, you can follow Haven. Specifically, I always, not always, but I tend to appear as much as I can in Global Atheists. If you are fans of the ACA, I appear in the Nonprofits. And if you want to see me talking with believers about different ideas in English with a positive mind, he's another YouTuber from the internet. We started together a channel called Belief Battles. You can find me there in English, and I will talk about all these topics. But if you want to see the things that I have been researching and different sections about how gods are created, crimes that have been happening in the name of God, now there are two guys who speak about theology, but from a secular point of view. So they explain a lot of history, science, and philosophy together. I do have a channel that sadly is only in Spanish, but if you speak Spanish, it's called Nuestra Experiencia Atea. That is the channel that I have. And if it's not a problem, you can see it here in my shirt, as you see, Nuestra Experiencia Atea. So that's my channel.
Yeah, yeah, we can always turn the subtitles on. If we want to watch, if we don't understand the Spanish, then we can read the subtitles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There you will have the subtitles as well. I think they are automatic. So you can find me there. So look for me, people. Thank you so much. Oh, and
amazing.
now I'm
Yeah,
on TikTok as well. Sorry,
yeah.
my Nuestra Experiencia Atea. Mhm.
Like I said, just send me those the links to those channels and everything on Messenger, and I'll put them in the description of this video if anybody wants to check them out. They're very welcome to. So yeah, let's conclude it there. Again, thank you so much for meeting with us, and it's good to meet atheists from all over the world. Not all atheists are old white men like me. They are there are women, young people, everybody, everywhere.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and thanks for this opportunity for bringing me here. I love this space and I love this place. So thank you.